Hello, Radiant One, and a very big and a very warm welcome to this episode of Mastery, which is going to be a solo episode, the first one in a very long time. I want to jump straight into because what I did was I asked whether, since this is the first episode in a very long time, like I said, I asked on social media whether you wanted to hear about my own journey with spirituality or whether you wanted to hear about something else. And based on the replies that I got, this is where we're starting. We're starting with my journey with spirituality. And also remember, if you want to be part of the community that gets to decide what episodes sort of come out when, go ahead and follow me on or connect with me on social media, and I will leave links in the description to make sure that you can do that. So today I am going to be sharing my journey with spirituality, and I've sort of like, I have notes. I've made like a couple of milestones or highlights that I want to touch upon, and I also want to turn this into sort of like a learning experience, so that for you. I always encourage you to like sort of do like a review. Like now I'm actually getting to the point where I'm so old that I can actually look back and reflect and, learn the lessons and the experience. But even if you're someone who's way younger than I am sure that you will have these touch points as well. And it is always good to go back and sort of look at those and tune into what the messages are or the lessons that you've received through them. That is how we grow and we continually expand. So if I start with the very beginning, I know that for a lot of people who are spiritually connected or have a spiritual background of some sort, that, they were quote unquote born open. That is not how I view myself to have been. So I never saw dead people when I was growing up, or had, I probably had imaginary friends, but it wasn't like something, I wasn't communicating with the other side, which I absolutely have friends who do and did. I didn't see things or hear things in that sense. What I did, like for me personally, my upbringing, I think the reason why I am quote unquote such a connector today, or like an empath today, is because I grew up in what would probably considered not the best of households. Like on the outside, everything was fine. I was getting fed, I was being clothed, I went to school, all of that. But internally, I had a father who struggled with a lot of mental issues, and who was also, I later found out in life, an alcoholic. And so from a very early age, I had to sort of tune into figure out where is the mood today, to ensure that me and as well as my little sister, that we were sort of safe, and also to make sure that not to upset daddy, so that he would go on of one of his spins and become very quiet and distanced, which of course to a child is very disconcerting. And so today, that's sort of where I realize that I've gotten my very heightened intuitive senses, so that when I sit with a client in session, I'm very quickly able to discern whether like what they're saying or what's beneath what they're saying, because I was trained in it from a very, very early age. And when I say trained, it wasn't like a conscious training. It wasn't something that was done purposefully. It simply happened with my upbringing. So while it is not an upbringing I would put on anyone else, I also recognize the lessons that it gave me, or the gifts that it honed in me, so to speak. So that was the very early childhood. Then the second thing I want to bring up is that I had a near-death experience when I was probably around 11 years old. As far as I can tell, based on what the information that I have, I must have been 11 years old. And it was, I was at school. We were doing these at school. We were doing, oh, by the way, if you're watching this via video, I quote unquote do apologize for the light at the time of this recording, sun has finally starting to break through in the cold, wintry Denmark where I'm at. And so I decided I'm just still going to shoot this video because I love sitting in this light. So I do, if you're watching this video, like I'm just, live with the beautiful light that's streaming in. So going back to, like I said, I had at around age 11, I had a near-death experience where I was in school, and after we were doing these musicals, and during one of the breaks in preparation for this musical, I was playing in the gymnasium with a trapeze, and I was swinging back and forth, and all of a sudden I lost my grip, meaning that I, was slammed into the ground. And as I was slammed into the ground, all breath was expended out of me. And I also remember this very, very quick tunnel and light that everyone else is talking about. And then I remember floating up on underneath the ceiling of this gymnasium, looking down on myself, my tiny body that was on the floor. I was looking down on and could sort of sense when people starting to realize she's not moving, and I could sort of sense the panic in the adults in the room all of a sudden when they were like realizing she's not moving, she's not breathing, nothing's happening. But the thing is, I personally was at complete peace. I don't think, well, that's not true, because since I have the only place where I have had that experience of utter bliss and peace is in meditation. And it is hard to put into words because it transcends anything physical. It goes so far beyond. It is so loving, so all encompassing, so mind blowing, fantastic, orgasmic, whatever you want to call it. But it's a state of bliss that like I said, I've only ever experienced it during meditation, and when it's there, it's just amazing. And so what I see now is that I'm because knowing that from a very, very early age, I've never been afraid of dying, and I've even been so far as to, it's actually at points in my life made me struggle in terms of why on earth, quote unquote, would I choose to be here when I know that experience is what, quote unquote, awaits me or is a possible experience. So that for me was it both gave me an understanding of there's nothing to fear. There is only oneness. And when I say only oneness, I do recognize that we have societal, issues, and we have that looking like this, being like this, have, certain privileges, and having grown up where I'm at, all of that, I do recognize this. And I also, so it's not an either or. And I also got the recognition from a very early age that there is this oneness, and so that was sort of like around, like I said, age 11. Then when I was probably around 14 and going through confirmation, so I'm born and raised in Denmark. We're what I consider to be la Christians, meaning that we don't really do anything other than during Easter, or we go to Mass on Christmas Eve. But confirmation is something that's very normal, and you do that around 14. You of course you get baptized at birth, and then around 14 you do your confirmation. And I of course did that as well. However, for me it was like my aunt is a tailor, and for me it was all about getting this poofy dress, and I wore this. I was so proud of myself, but I wore this ugly pill hat, like pillbox hat. And it was just, I look like, I don't think really that I have seen any photos of me from that age, but like, OMG. But at that time, moving through my confirmation and, learning the lessons and doing the things that we needed to do with the priest, and, there was one particular pivotal moment for me, and that was something that he had shared that made me question things. And so I went to him with a question, and I said, so you're telling me that God always forgives, and you're telling me that there's always a new tomorrow. And he was very happy. I just remember him being very sort of great student, wonderful, yes, you get it. However, the next question out of my mouth was, well, if God always forgives and there's always a new tomorrow, how can there be a hell? And I don't remember what he said. I just remember my own reaction to it, which was, that don't make no sense to me. Because it didn't, and it still doesn't. What I have learned ever since is that, to me, the hell that we experience is the personal hell that we sort of, move through. It's all of the things that we get to heal within ourselves. It's all of the mindset things that we need to move through in this lifetime. And so, and there have been times during my life where that has been absolute and utter hell. So that's that. Then I, the next point, fast forward till probably somewhere around 2008. I was a very successful key account manager. I was working for one of the largest acquirers in Europe at the time, in Scandinavia at least, the largest. I had everything that you're supposed to have. I had the company car, the credit cards, the health insurance on top of the amazing health insurance that we do have in Denmark. I had, apartment in the city. I had great friends. I had everything that you're supposed to have. And yet every night I would come home and I would just be on my floor, bathroom floor, crying because inside I wasn't happy. And I couldn't understand, because if you have everything that society tells you that you're supposed to have and you're not happy, then what the F, right? And so one particular time I was on my bathroom floor, I was crying my eyes out. And all of a sudden I realized that while I was on the floor crying, there was also a part of me that was outside of myself, sort of looking in from above, sort of it felt like above me. That was me as well, but that was completely at peace, completely serene, completely blissful. And in that moment, I recognized that I wanted that part of myself that I felt or experienced as being outside of myself. I wanted to incorporate that into myself and into every part of me, and to live with that as my lived experience. And I wish I could tell you that then that happened overnight and everything was fine, because it wasn't. It has been a long, long journey, and it includes a lot of the pieces that I've still to tell you about. So following that experience, what I did was, at the time I had heard about Marianne Williamson, and I think I had either read or listened to her book called A Return to Love. And what I would do for a long period of time was that this was the time of the iPods. This was, again, a long time ago. What I would do is every night I would go to bed. I would put the book to play in my ears. I would put on my headset, and then I would go to bed and I would listen to it as I was falling asleep, because there was a part of me that was like, okay, I want that part of me that is outside of myself, or feel I want to connect with that, and I want to have me get that part of it. So I went to bed and I would listen to that book. And I do believe that is that at that time in my life, that saved me. That being able to listen to words that were so based in love, for love, with love, and just pure love was instrumental to me. And later on, because Marianne Williamson, as you may know, is a big teacher within A Course in Miracles, I was led to A Course in Miracles. And the first many times I would start to read or try to read A Course in Miracles, it made absolutely zero sense to me. Like it was like learning to speak another language, which it was and which it is if that's your path. However, I do remember this must have been somewhere around 2000, probably 11 or 12, picking it up. And that's when I got it. There's a whole nother story about A Course in Miracles that I'll go into it probably another episode. But yeah, that's when I started, it started making sense to me. I started getting it. And I was completely hooked. And for the next 4 years, I was on a daily journey of studying or reading A Course in Miracles. And it was instrumental in shifting my perspective from one of fear to one of love. Now, around the same time, it was also when I realized that I wanted to do something different with my life. And I went on a journey and had a moment where, a very clear moment, this was Friday the 13th, 2010, when I realized that I was meant to be a coach in this lifetime. Again, that's a whole nother story that I'm probably going to go into in a different episode. And so I embarked on that journey, and I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to be a spiritual business coach, or at least incorporate spirituality in my business coaching in some way, shape, or form. So then somewhere around 2016, I had what I call another dark night of my soul. And it was when I realized that while I, with the help of A Course in Miracles, my being, my presence was coming from a space of love, all of my actions and all of the way that I was doing my business, my marketing, my sales funnels, my launches, my everything in my business was not. And that sort of created like a massive rift in me. And I had a moment where I was like, I won't be doing anything in my business until I know that I am coming from a space of love in doing that as well. And so I stopped doing for probably about 6 months. And it's not something that I recommend if you have a business, because it's not good for a business to just stop doing. But that's what I chose to do. I chose to stop doing and sit down and just be in a space of receiving and listening. And then in the beginning of 2017, I had a session with one of my mentors where at the very end, we decided that she was going to take me on a regression journey where she was going to lead me back to, because at that time I had realized in that fall of 2016, I'd watched like a 6-part series with the journey of Jesus, or Yeshua, as I call him. And as we got to the end of that series where Yeshua is brought to the cross, I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying so hard. And I remember thinking, like, this story is not new. This is not the story. The ending of the story is very known. Why am I so sad? Why am I so upset? And so we decided in that session that she was going to take me on a journey. And what she did in that, it went very quickly, and we recorded it, so I have it on tape, which was amazing, because I was very quickly taken back. And then I remember standing on this hill with 2 or 3 other women, looking over at Yeshua on the cross and thinking, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they have done. And I don't know who I was in that situation. I don't know what I was in that situation. I don't know anything. And I don't try to claim to be anyone or anything. I just know that in that moment, I realized that that was the reason why I felt so sad, is because the message that was being brought forth, the lessons that were being, the energies, the frequencies that were being anchored into the earth was not being received, is what I thought at the time. Now I know different, but yeah, I know that it was part of the whole thing. But so that was instrumental in my spiritual journey. Now, then we're forward fasting till the summer of 2017, where I all of a sudden had an epiphany, and I started the Magdalene Voices, which is the podcast, and you'll also find the videos here on YouTube, where I was having conversations with beautiful souls, having been voiced for centuries, or having voices who had been silenced for centuries, and I had a whole series on talking with scholars and people and all these things about the Magdalene, Yeshua, that time and all of that. And that was, again, very instrumental in my own journey. Now, in the beginning of 2018, I went on an inner journey, where I met one of my teachers. I knew that there was a teacher that was coming forth, and I didn't know who that was. And in that journey, I was on a shore, and this woman comes towards me on a boat, on a float. And as she steps forward, I see that it's the Magdalene, Mary Magdalene. And I remember being so humbled and completely baffled by it. And she was like, "What did you expect? Like, you've been doing this podcast and series for 6 months, and like, I've been present in your life for a long time." Like, so it was sort of funny to me, because she was just there as a teacher and a guide. And what I have found is that she shows up, like, Magdala, of course, is the name for tower. So she shows up when everything is about to get shook and shaken and stirred, and she does not tear you down to just like put you in the ground, but to build you back up, to make sure that all of the constructions that you have made are made on solid ground. And so she started walking me, or I started walking with her. And then in the end of 2018, September 29th, I believe, 2018, I was introduced to energy work or energetic alignment in a way that made total sense to me, in a way that was so physically embodied that it took all of the sort of spiritual concepts and all of the very etheric sort of knowledge and made it super practical. And I had an experience where things that I had been working on that had been stuck for me for a very long time, all of a sudden just like flowed, which was wild. And so the journey that I have been on with energetic alignment ever since has been absolutely one of the most satisfying journeys that I have ever been on and are on, because this is a continuing journey. It doesn't end. The lightness, the satisfaction, the joy, the depth that I have experiencing of my life is, sometimes beyond what I can express in words. And it is, if you're interested in energetic alignment, I do have an article, and I will leave a link to that in the description, because it is what I do in my sessions with my clients as well, but I also share it openly and freely because I want as many as possible to have access to this tool so that you can use it in your life. And what energetic alignment has meant for me is, it's meant, first of all, a lot of surrender. And it has meant a lot of abandoning what I think that I want into my principal thing to quote unquote do or be every day is to be in alignment with who I am in truth. Because when you are in alignment with who you are in truth and with what you're here to do, everything else will fall into place. And when I'm saying that, I don't mean that means that the big car or the house or the yacht or the bags or whatever, because truth be told, all of that falls to the wayside. You no longer care about, that's wrong. I do care about material things and being comfortable and all of that. However, it is no longer something that I chase or that I need to have in order for my life to be deeply nourishing, deeply satisfying, deeply, just satisfying and nourishing. Well, just. So that is the energetic alignment part of it. And that's why one of my pet peeves is that stop manifesting and start aligning. Because when you start aligning yourself with who you are in truth, when you start to release what's resistant in your energy, when you start to release what's reversed in your energy, and you start to bring yourself into alignment, that's when the quote unquote miracles happen out of the blue. When things are in synchronization, then what is yours is yours. One final thing that I had actually not touched upon, but which is coming up for me in terms of alignment, is that from a very early age, I have wanted to live in California. Most people, when they meet me or hear me, think that I am American and that I'm an American living in Denmark rather than just being a Danish person speaking English at a high level. The earliest age that I remember wanting to live in California and being confused that I wasn't in California is 12. Now, over the years, I have done a bunch of stuff and I have thrown a shit ton of money after that goal or that dream. And it has yet to come into fruition. And I don't know that if it ever will. The reason why I'm including this is because I wanted to, when I talk about alignment, I wanted to share that sometimes being in alignment means surrendering and giving over even your deepest desires and understanding that they may or may not come true. And what I will tell you is that since I have done that, the level of satisfaction that I have in my life has only risen. Does that mean that I'm not sad that I'm not living in California? No, because winters in Denmark are dreadful. And the energy of California is something that just, it speaks to my soul. I feel at home when I land. There is something there for me. And one of my life's apparently spiritual journeys is also to continuously surrender that while also knowing that it might happen or it may not. So that's part of my my journey with spirituality. And throughout this, there's been a bunch of tools that I've shared. You can go onto my website. I share all the tools that I use in my daily practice, and even with my clients, I share that openly and freely, because the more of us that are doing this work, the better our world becomes. That is truly my understanding, not even my belief. It is my knowledge that the more of us that are healing ourselves, that are aligning ourselves, that are doing the work on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, the better our world becomes. And let's be honest, we need this. Our world needs this. And so the work that you do, because of energy, everything is energy and we're all one. The work that you do for yourself also touches, heals others as well. That is what I wanted to share with you in this sort of long episode. I'm not expecting all of the videos, the solo episodes, to be this long. However, if you've listened to this all the way, and if you have any questions about anything that I've shared, feel free to drop a comment below. Feel free to subscribe, share, like, all of these things. But that's it. I wanted to send you so much love and hope that you will have a wonderful day wherever in the world you might be. Lots of love. That is what I had for you in today's episode of Mastery with Maria Saraphina. I hope it served you well. For all the deeds and details, click the link in the description and help me spread the love of this transmission by sharing it with a friend or on social media, or leave me a comment or review. Have a wonderful day. God bless.